The lights in Lab 7 glowed blue in the frozen darkness of Arcturus Research Station. Dr. Jiwoo Kim rubbed her tired eyes and checked the time. 3:47 a.m. station time. She had been working for 19 hours straight, but she couldn't stop now. The final sequence was almost complete. Just a little longer, she whispered, not to her assistant computers or to the other scientists who had long since gone to bed, but to the massive shape floating in the nutrient tank before her. The woolly Mammoth hung suspended in clear blue liquid, its huge body supported by invisible force fields. Metal parts gleamed where they joined with flesh and bone. A titanium spine, reinforced leg joints, and the neural implant at the base of its skull that glowed with tiny red and green lights. Jiwoo pressed her hand against the cold glass of the tank. "Today is your birthday," she said softly. "Do you know that? 3 years of work and today you wake up." The Mammoth, of course, did not respond. Its eyes remained closed, its giant heart beating slowly under the careful watch of a dozen monitors. Jiwoo turned back to her control panel and entered the final command sequence. The computers hummed, processing the activation codes that would, if everything went as planned, bring the first Mammoth seen on any world in over 12,000 years back to life. The door to the lab slid open with a hiss. Do-Hyun Park, head of station, security, walked in with 2 cups of steaming coffee. "I thought you might need this," he said, placing 1 cup beside her workstation. "Has there been any change?" Jiwoo shook her head and took the coffee gratefully. "Not yet, but I just started. The final sequence. If all goes well, it should begin to wake up within the hour." Do-Hyun frowned as he looked up at the Mammoth. Standing over 15 feet tall with tusks that had been reinforced with razor-sharp metal, it was an imposing sight even in sleep. "Still don't like this," he said quietly. "Creating a weapon this powerful, this alive. The military is playing with fire." "It's not just a weapon," Jiwoo said, a hint of anger in her voice. She had had this argument too many times already. "It's a magnificent creature, and yes, it has been enhanced for battle, but the neural implants will keep it under control." "And if they don't?" Do-Hyun asked. "If the Earth Defense Coalition gets their perfect weapon, but it turns on us? What then?" Before Jiwoo could answer, an alarm beeped softly from the monitors. Both scientists turned to look at the screen. "Brain activity is increasing," Jiwoo said, excitement making her voice shake. "It's working." In the tank, the Mammoth's massive body twitched. Its trunk moved slightly, curling and uncurling in the blue liquid. "Heart rate increasing," Jiwoo said, reading the numbers flashing across her screen. "Muscle response normal. Neural implant connectivity at 92% and climbing." Do-Hyun moved closer to the tank, his concerns momentarily forgotten in the wonder of seeing an extinct creature come back to life. "Its eyes," he said. "Look." The Mammoth's eyelids were fluttering. Slowly, they opened, revealing dark, intelligent eyes that seemed to take in the lab with confusion and then, gradually understanding. "Hello there," Jiwoo said softly, pressing the intercom button so her voice would carry into the tank. "Welcome to the world." The Mammoth's eyes focused on her. Its trunk reached out, pressing against the glass where her hand rested on the other side. "Remarkable," Do-Hyun whispered. "It recognizes you." "Of course it does," Jiwoo said with a small smile. "I've been talking to it for months during development, playing music, telling stories. The neural tissue was forming connections even before full consciousness. I wanted it to know a friendly voice when it woke up." A loud buzzing interrupted the moment. The secure line was ringing. Only the highest military officials had access to it. Jiwoo sighed and pressed the button to accept the call. A stern face appeared on the screen. Colonel Taiho Kang, Earth Defense Coalition, the man in charge of what the military called Project Titan. "Dr. Kim," he said without greeting. "I've just received the alert that the asset is awakening. I'll be arriving within the hour to assess its combat readiness." "Colonel, with respect, we've only just completed the awakening sequence," Jiwoo protested. "The Mammoth needs time to adjust, to stabilize its cognitive functions. We need at least a week of baseline testing before we even think about combat conditioning." Colonel Tejo's expression hardened. Dr. Kim, may I remind you that this project has cost the Coalition over $50 billion? The Voidborn aren't waiting while we run baseline tests. They've already taken 3 outer colony planets. This weapon was commissioned to turn the tide of war, not to be coddled like a pet. It's not about coddling, Jiwoo insisted. It's about ensuring stable neural function. Push too hard too fast, and we risk compromising the entire project. The military timetable stands, Colonel, Tejo said flatly. Combat conditioning begins today. I expect your full cooperation, Doctor. The screen went black as he ended the call. Jiwoo turned back to the tank with worry etched on her face. The Mammoth was watching her, those intelligent eyes following. Her movements. I won't let them hurt you, she whispered, even though she knew the Colonel would never let her endanger the project for the creature's comfort. Do-hyun put a hand on her shoulder. You knew this day was coming, Jiwoo. It was always meant to be a weapon. I know, she said quietly. But that doesn't mean it can't be more than that. She turned to the intercom again and began to sing softly, an old Korean lullaby her grandmother had taught her, about stars and dreams and peaceful nights. In the tank, the Mammoth's eyes slowly closed again, not in sleep, but in what almost looked like contentment. Its massive body relaxed, the readouts showing decreasing stress hormones. What happens when Colonel Tejo sees you singing lullabies to the military's newest superweapon? Do-hyun asked, half joking but with real concern in his voice. Jiwoo looked up at the magnificent creature she had brought back from extinction, only to turn it into an instrument of war. I don't know, she admitted. But I do know one thing. This Mammoth is going to remember my voice, even after they teach it to kill. 3 months passed in a blur of tests, training, and sleepless nights. Jiwoo watched as her creation, now officially called Titan by the military, learned to use its strength and new weapons with frightening speed. The Mammoth's natural intelligence, combined with the neural implants, made it a quick learner. Too quick sometimes. Today, Jiwoo sat in the command ship orbiting Saturn. Around her, military officers watched screens with tense faces. The Voidborn, dark ships shaped like giant squid, had attacked the research colonies on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. After months of preparation, it was time for the Mammoth to face real battle. Project Titan deployment in 60 seconds, announced, a cool voice over the speakers. Jiwoo's hands shook as she adjusted her monitoring equipment. A small screen showed her the view from the camera mounted on the Mammoth's head. Through it, she could see the inside of the drop pod, where Titan stood calmly, waiting. Colonel Tejo entered the command center, his uniform perfectly pressed, despite the crisis. Dr. Kim, status report, he demanded. All systems normal, Jiwoo replied, not looking away from her screens. Neural connections at 98% efficiency, heart rate and stress hormones within acceptable range. Good, said the colonel. We need this victory, Doctor. The Voidborn have pushed us back at every turn. If Titan performs as expected, we might finally have a chance. The drop pod launched with a slight shudder. Jiwoo watched through Titan's eyes as the pod hurtled toward the surface of the moon. The Mammoth's heart rate increased slightly, but it remained calm. Too calm, perhaps, for something about to enter battle for the first time. Impact in 10 seconds, called an officer. 9, 8. Jiwoo gripped the edge of her console. Be safe, she whispered, though the Mammoth could not hear her now. The pod crashed into the icy surface of Titan. The doors blew open with an explosion of gas and metal. And then, through the camera, Jiwoo watched as Titan stepped out onto the battlefield. The scene was chaos. Human soldiers in environmental suits fired at the Voidborn ships. The aliens moved with terrible grace, their dark tentacles crushing equipment and people alike. In the distance, the research station burned, orange flames stark against the brown and gold landscape. For a moment, Titan stood still, surveying the battlefield. Then, without warning, the Mammoth charged. It's moving, someone shouted. Look, at that speed. Jiwoo had never seen Titan run at full speed before. The Mammoth crossed the battlefield in seconds, its massive feet shaking the ground. It reached the first Voidborn ship, and without hesitation drove its metal-reinforced tusks deep into the alien vessel. The void-born ship let out a high-pitched wail that made everyone in the command center cover their ears. Black fluid sprayed from the wound as Titan ripped its tusks free and moved to the next target. "Incredible," breathed Colonel Tejo, watching as the Mammoth tore through the alien forces. "Look at that killing efficiency." And it was efficient. Terrifyingly so. Titan's trunk, modified to channel cryogenic technology, froze a void-born soldier solid before the Mammoth smashed it to pieces. The weapons built into its sides fired precise shots that brought down alien ships trying to escape. Jiwoo felt sick, watching it. This was not the curious, gentle creature that had pressed its trunk against the glass to touch her hand. This was a perfect weapon, doing exactly what it had been made to do. An hour later, it was over. The battlefield was littered with the remains of void-born ships and soldiers. Titan stood in the center, covered in the black fluid that served as alien blood. Through the camera, Jiwoo could see the Mammoth's trunk moving back and forth, searching for more enemies to destroy. "Remarkable," said Colonel Tejo, looking at the casualty reports. "Titan has destroyed more void-born in 1 hour than an entire platoon could in a week. This is exactly what we needed." "Send the deactivation signal," Jiwoo said, noticing something concerning in the neural readings. "Now, please." An officer pressed a series of buttons. On the screen, they watched as Titan received the signal to power down combat systems and return to the extraction point. But the Mammoth didn't move. "Send." "Hit again," ordered Colonel Tejo, frowning. The signal was sent a second time. Titan's head turned slowly as if confused. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the Mammoth began walking toward the extraction point. "What was that delay?" demanded the colonel. Jiwoo studied the neural readings with growing concern. The combat protocol seemed to be lingering. They should have shut down immediately at the signal. "I need to run diagnostics when Titan returns. As long as it follows orders eventually, that's what matters," said Colonel Tejo. "The mission was a complete success. The research station is secure, and we've proven that Project Titan is everything we hoped for." Later that night, after the Mammoth had been returned to the research station for maintenance, Jiwoo slipped into the containment bay. The room was dark and quiet, with only the soft hum of monitoring equipment breaking the silence. Titan stood in the center of the room, partially cleaned of the alien blood but still bearing the marks of battle. The Mammoth looked different somehow. Its posture was alert even though it was supposed to be in rest mode. "Hey there," Jiwoo said softly, approaching the massive creature. "It's just me." The Mammoth's head turned toward her. Its eyes, which had always seemed so intelligent and curious before, now held something new, something that made Jiwoo's heart beat faster with worry. She pulled up a stool and sat beside one of Titan's huge feet. From her pocket, she took out a small device, a personal speaker she often used during their early development sessions. "I thought you might like to hear something calm after today," she said, turning on the speaker. Soft music filled the air, an old Korean melody that she had played many times during the Mammoth's creation. Titan's trunk reached down toward her, moving with surprising gentleness for something that had crushed alien ships just hours before. It hovered near her shoulder, not quite touching. "You remembered," Jiwoo said with a sad smile. "That's good. Hold on to that." She sat with the Mammoth for hours, talking softly about nothing important while the music played. Eventually, she noticed the neural activity readings on the nearby monitor changing. The patterns of aggression and alertness were fading, replaced by calmer waves. "Dr. Kim," the voice startled her. Do-hyun stood in the doorway, looking tired and worried. "You shouldn't be in here alone," he said, coming closer. "Not after what we saw today." "It knows me," Jiwoo replied. "Look at the readings. It's calm now." Do-hyun glanced at the monitor. "For now, yes, but I saw the battle footage. That wasn't just programming, Jiwoo. It was enjoying the kill." Jiwoo looked up at Titan's face. The Mammoth was watching them both, its eyes moving between them as if following their conversation. "I know." she admitted quietly. Something's changing in its neural patterns. The combat protocols are taking root too deeply. I need to adjust them before the next deployment. If Colonel Taeho will let you, Do-hyun warned. After today's success, he'll want Titan in the field as soon as possible. As if in response to hearing the colonel's name, the mammoth shifted its weight. Its trunk curled slightly, and Ji-woo noticed. The battle tusks extend a fraction before retracting again. I'll find a way, she promised, placing her hand gently on the mammoth's foot. We can't let it forget there's more to existence than killing. 1 year passed. Titan became famous throughout the solar system. Children played with toy mammoths and soldiers cheered when the massive creature arrived on battlefields. In 12 months, Titan had fought in 17 battles against the Voidborn. It had never lost. But Ji-woo Kim knew something was wrong. She sat in her lab staring at brain scans from Titan's latest medical check. The images showed clear changes in the mammoth's neural patterns. The areas controlling aggression glowed bright red, much larger than they had been at the beginning. You're getting worse, she whispered to the images. And they won't listen to me. The door opened, and Minji Lee walked in. She was the newest member of the science team, a brilliant analyst who specialized in void-born biology. You wanted to see me, Dr. Kim? She asked. Ji-woo nodded and pointed to the scans. Tell me what you see. Minji studied the images carefully. Her eyes widened. The neural implant is changing. These dark spots here, they're not supposed to be there. Exactly, said Ji-woo. The implant is degrading. But Colonel Taeho says I'm imagining things. He says Titan is performing perfectly. Minji hesitated before speaking again. Dr. Kim, I think I might know what's causing this. I've been studying samples from the Voidborn the Titan has killed. She pulled out her tablet and showed Ji-woo her research. Their biology contains some kind of enzyme. It seems to react with the metal in Titan's implants. Each time the mammoth kills one of them and comes into contact with their blood, the corruption spreads a little more. Ji-woo felt cold fear in her stomach. How bad could it get? Eventually, Minji shook her head. Complete neural breakdown. The combat programming would overwrite everything else. Titan would become nothing but a killing machine, with no ability to distinguish friend from enemy. We need to tell Colonel Taeho, Ji-woo said, standing up. We need to stop the deployments, at least until we can fix this. He won't listen, said a voice from the doorway. Do-hyun stood there looking tired. I just came from a command meeting. The Voidborn are heading for Europa Station. Titan is being prepped for emergency deployment right now. Europa? Ji-woo gasped. But that's the main research hub. There are thousands of civilians there. That's why they're sending Titan, Do-hyun explained. It's our best weapon. It's also becoming dangerous, Ji-woo argued. Minji has proof that the neural implants are being corrupted by Voidborn biology. If Titan malfunctions in the middle of a civilian station... The alarm sounded before she could finish her sentence. Red lights flashed throughout the lab. That's the deployment warning, said Do-hyun. They're moving Titan to the launch bay now. Ji-woo grabbed her tablet and ran for the door. I need to be in the command center for this one. 20 minutes later, the battle for Europa Station began. The Voidborn attacked with their largest force yet. 6 of their massive ships surrounded the space station, launching smaller fighters against the human defenses. In the command center, Ji-woo watched the screens with growing horror. Titan was fighting with incredible power, smashing through Voidborn ships and tearing apart alien soldiers. But the Mammoth was also ignoring tactical commands, choosing its own targets instead of following the battle plan. It's breaking formation again, said an officer. Sir, it's going after that retreating ship instead of defending the West Quadrant as ordered. Colonel Taeho slammed his fist on the table. Why won't it obey? Dr. Kim, what's happening? I tried to tell you, Ji-woo said, typing frantically on her console. The neural implants are degrading. Titan is starting to override our commands with its own combat instincts. On the main screen, they watched as Titan pursued a Voidborn ship that was moving away from the station. The Mammoth was heading straight toward a civilian habitat sector. If it fires its weapons there, it could breach the hull. warned Do-hyun. Hundreds could die. Shut it down, ordered Colonel Taeho. Send the emergency deactivation signal. The officer pressed the button. On the screen, Titan kept moving, completely, ignoring the command. It's not responding, the officer reported, voice tight with fear. Jiwoo pushed him aside and took over the console. Let me try something. She activated the direct neural feed, a system that let her speak directly through Titan's implants. It was only meant for maintenance, never for battlefield use. Titan, she said clearly, her voice shaking slightly. This is Jiwoo. Do you remember me? You need to stop. There are people in danger. For a long, terrible moment, nothing happened. Then slowly the mammoth stopped its pursuit. It turned, massive head swinging toward the sound of her voice in its mind. Yes, that's it, Jiwoo continued, relief washing over her. Come back to the main battle. Follow the tactical plan. To everyone's amazement, Titan obeyed. It turned around and headed back toward the main battle area, rejoining the human forces. How did you do that? Demanded Colonel Taeho, staring at her with a mix of anger and surprise. It remembers my voice, Jiwoo said simply, from before it was a weapon, from when it was first awakening and learning. The battle ended 3 hours later. The Voidborn retreated, having suffered heavy losses. Europa Station was damaged but intact. Titan was returned to its containment area for repairs and maintenance, but Colonel Taeho was not happy. You've compromised the asset, he told Jiwoo in his office after the battle. This emotional connection you've fostered is interfering with its combat effectiveness. That emotional connection just saved hundreds of civilian lives, Jiwoo argued. And Minji has proof that the neural degradation is getting worse. If we don't fix it, soon Titan won't respond to any of us. Colonel Taeho's face hardened. Dr. Lee's research has been classified, and as of today, your access to Project Titan is restricted. You will continue your work on the technical side, but you are forbidden from direct contact with the asset. You can't do that, Jiwoo protested. I created Titan. I understand it better than anyone. That's precisely the problem, said Colonel Taeho. You see it as a creation to be nurtured. I see it as a weapon to win this war. And right now, we need a weapon more than we need another pet project. That night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, Do-hyun found Jiwoo sitting alone in the observation room above Titan's containment area. Through the reinforced glass, they could see the mammoth pacing back and forth, tusks scraping against the walls occasionally. It's restless, Do-hyun observed. It used to sleep at night. The neural corruption is affecting its rest cycles, Jiwoo said, not looking away from the mammoth. Soon it won't sleep at all. It will just wait for the next battle, the next chance to kill. Do-hyun sat beside her. I have security clearance for the containment area, he said quietly. If you wanted to visit Titan sometimes, when no one else is around, I could help with that. Jiwoo turned to him in surprise. Why would you risk that? Do-hyun looked down at the mammoth. Because I saw what happened today. Your voice was the only thing that got through to it, and I'm starting to think that if Titan ever truly loses control, you might be the only one who can stop it. In the containment area below, Titan suddenly stopped pacing. It looked up, directly at the observation window, as if it knew they were there, as if it were listening. We're playing a dangerous game, Jiwoo said softly. We've been playing a dangerous game since the day we decided to resurrect an extinct animal and turn it into a weapon of war, Do-hyun replied. At least this way, we're trying to hold on to whatever humanity is left in it. Titan continued to stare up at them, its eyes reflecting the dim red emergency lights. In those eyes, Jiwoo could see the battle between what the mammoth had been created to be and what it was becoming, and she feared which side would win. The kill count reached thousands. For 18 months, Titan had been the Earth Defense Coalition's most effective weapon against the Voidborn. The mammoth fought in battles across the solar system, from the rings of Saturn to the mines of Mercury. Its name became a battle cry for human soldiers. Remember Titan. But in the quiet hours between battles, Dr. Jiwoo Kim worried. She sat in her small office, studying the latest neural scans that Minji had secretly shared with her. The corruption had spread to nearly 70% of the implant system. The Mammoth was operating almost entirely on autonomous combat protocols now. "It's getting worse faster than we predicted," she told Do-hyun during one of their secret meetings. "Titan barely sleeps anymore. It just stands in the containment area waiting for the next battle." Do-hyun looked grim. "The military is calling this an evolution. They say Titan has become the perfect weapon because it lives only to fight." "It wasn't supposed to be just a weapon," Ji-woo said, her voice breaking. "It was supposed to be a miracle, the return of a magnificent species." "I know," Do-hyun said softly, "and it remembers you at least, that's something." It was true. In the 2 months since Colonel Taeho had restricted her access, Do-hyun had sneaked Ji-woo into the containment area 12 times. Each time, the Mammoth had recognized her. It would lower its massive head, allowing her to touch its fur. Sometimes it would even respond to the old song she sang, its aggressive posture softening slightly. But those moments of connection were becoming shorter. The last time Titan had suddenly pulled away from her, its eyes changing from calm recognition to battle alertness in seconds. Ji-woo had barely left the containment area before the Mammoth began pacing and making the low rumbling sound that the handlers now recognized as a desire to fight. "We're losing it," Ji-woo whispered, "and the military doesn't care as long as it keeps killing Voidborn." The emergency alarm cut through their conversation. Red lights flashed in the corridors as the station's AI made an announcement. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Ji-woo and Do-hyun rushed to the command center. The room was in chaos, officers running between stations as screens showed a massive object approaching Earth. "What's happening?" Do-hyun asked an officer he recognized. "Void-born mothership," the woman replied, her face pale with fear. "Biggest one we've ever seen. It's heading straight for Earth." Colonel Taeho stood at the main command table, his face tight with concentration. He looked up as Ji-woo and Do-hyun entered. "Dr. Kim, good. We need Project Titan prepped for immediate deployment." "Another battle?" Ji-woo asked, dreading the answer. "Not just another battle," Colonel Taeho said, pulling up an image of the mothership on the main screen. "This is their command vessel. Intelligence believes their leadership is on board. If we can destroy it, we might end this war. How does Titan fit into this?" Do-hyun asked, though the sick feeling in his stomach told him he already knew. Colonel Taeho's eyes were cold as he answered, "We're sending Titan directly into the mothership. The Mammoth will be equipped with our most powerful thermonuclear device. Once inside, it will detonate, destroying the ship from within." "A suicide mission," Ji-woo whispered. "You're going to sacrifice Titan." "To save Earth," Colonel Taeho replied sharply. "Which is what this project was always about." Ji-woo wanted to argue, to scream that there had to be another way. But deep down she knew this had always been a possibility. Titan was a weapon created for war, and in war weapons were expendable. "I want to be there," she said finally. "When you give Titan its final orders, I want to say goodbye." For a moment Colonel Taeho seemed about to refuse. Then he nodded, curtly. "Fine, but no delays, Dr. Kim. Earth is counting on us." 2 hours later, Ji-woo stood in the launch bay as technicians fitted the thermonuclear device to Titan's battle harness. The bomb was surprisingly small for something so deadly, just a metal box strapped to the Mammoth's side. "The detonator is remote-controlled," a technician explained to Colonel Taeho. "Once Titan is in position at the heart of the mothership, you press this button and it's over." Ji-woo approached the Mammoth slowly. "Hey there, big guy," she said softly. "It's me again." Titan's head turned toward her. For a moment its eyes seemed to clear, the battle hunger fading as it recognized her voice. Its trunk reached out, touching her shoulder gently. "I'm sorry," Ji-woo whispered, placing her hand on the Mammoth's trunk. "I'm so sorry for what we made you into." "Dr. Kim, step back please," Colonel Taeho ordered. "We're ready for launch." Ji-woo reluctantly moved away from Titan. As she did, the Mammoth's eyes changed again, returning to the cold battle focus that had become its normal state. "Launch sequence initiating," announced the AI. "All personnel clear the bay." Jiwoo took one last look at the magnificent creature she had brought back from extinction, now turned into the ultimate sacrifice. Then she turned and followed Colonel Taeho to the command center, but they never made it there. The alarm blared halfway down the corridor. Red emergency lights flashed, and the station AI spoke in a calm voice that contrasted starkly with its message. Warning, containment breach. In Launch Bay 1, security teams respond immediately. Colonel Taeho grabbed a communication device from a wall panel. What's happening? Sir, it's Titan, came a panicked voice. It's broken free from the launch restraints. It's killing everything in the bay. Jiwoo felt her blood turn cold. The neural corruption, she gasped. It's complete. Titan can't tell friend from enemy anymore. They ran back toward the launch bay, but security officers stopped them before they could reach it. No one goes in there, said the lead officer. The Mammoth has gone completely berserk. It's already killed 7 technicians. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the horror unfolding inside. Titan rampaged through the launch bay, tusks swinging with devastating force. Bodies lay scattered on the floor. The nuclear device was still attached to the Mammoth's side, its lights blinking steadily. We need to shut it down, Colonel Taeho said, his voice shaking. Send in the combat robots. They won't stop it, Jiwoo said, watching as Titan smashed through a heavy metal door like it was made of paper. Nothing will stop it now. The corruption is complete. It only knows how to kill. Then we'll destroy it, Colonel Taeho decided. We'll seal the section and vent it to space. With the nuclear device still attached, Do-yeon asked, arriving behind them. If that thing detonates near the station, we all die. Colonel Taeho's face went pale as he realized the impossible situation. Then what do we do? Jiwoo watched through the window as Titan continued its rampage, moving with terrible purpose toward the inner station where thousands of people lived and worked. The Mammoth that remembered her voice was gone, replaced by the perfect killing machine the military had always wanted. Let me try, she said quietly. Let me go in there. Absolutely not, Colonel Taeho said. It's suicide. It might remember me, Jiwoo insisted. One last time. Before anyone could stop her, she pushed past the security officers and headed for the emergency access door to the launch bay. Smoke filled the air in the launch bay. Broken equipment sparked and hissed. Bodies of technicians lay scattered across the floor. In the center of the destruction stood Titan, blood dripping from its metal-reinforced tusks. The nuclear device still hung from its side, blinking with quiet menace. Jiwoo stepped through the emergency access door. It sealed shut behind her with a heavy thud. Dr. Kim, get out of there, Colonel Taeho shouted through the communication system. That's an order. Jiwoo ignored him. She walked slowly toward the Mammoth, her hands empty and visible. Titan turned its massive head toward her, eyes glowing with battle fury. It did not seem to recognize her. Hey there, she said softly, using the same greeting she had used since the Mammoth first opened its eyes in the nutrient tank. It's me. It's Jiwoo. Titan took a step toward her, its trunk raised in a threatening posture. The weapons built into its sides powered up with a high-pitched whine. I know you're in there somewhere, Jiwoo continued, not stopping her slow approach. Under all that programming and corruption, the Mammoth that used to press its trunk against the glass when I sang. In the command center, Do-hyun watched the video feed with his heart in his throat. Behind him, officers prepared emergency measures, ready to sacrifice the entire launch section if necessary. Look at the neural readings, Minji said, pointing to a screen. There's activity in the oldest parts of its brain, the parts from before the implants. On the screen, they watched as Jiwoo reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device, the speaker she had used so many times before. Music filled the launch bay, the Korean lullaby that she had played for Titan when it was first awakening to consciousness. The Mammoth stopped its advance, its head tilted slightly, as if listening. That's it, Jiwoo said, taking another step, closer. You remember this song, don't you? From before they taught you to kill. From before everything went wrong. Titan's trunk lowered slightly. The weapons powered down, but its eyes still held the wild light of battle, flickering between recognition and rage. "She's getting through to it," Do-hyun whispered. "Not fast enough," Colonel Tae-ho said grimly. "The void-born mothership will be in Earth's orbit in less than an hour. We need that nuclear device now." On a nearby screen, they could see the massive alien ship approaching. Earth was visible in the background, blue and vulnerable. In the launch bay, Jiwoo was now standing directly in front of Titan. The mammoth towered over her, its breath stirring her hair. One swing of its tusks could kill her instantly. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears in her eyes. "I brought you back from extinction only to turn you into a weapon. I should have protected you better." Slowly, with great care, she reached out her hand. Titan watched her every move, muscles tense and ready to attack. "Colonel, look at this," said an officer. "Someone is accessing the nuclear device controls from inside the launch bay." Colonel Tae-ho rushed to the screen. "Who authorized that?" "No, sir. It looks like Dr. Lee's access code." All eyes turned to Minji, who stood pale but determined by the neural monitoring station. "I sent Dr. Kim the detonation codes," she admitted. "She asked for them before she went in." Colonel Tae-ho's face darkened with anger. "You had no right—" "She has a plan," Minji interrupted. "And it's the only one we've got." In the launch bay, Jiwoo's fingers finally touched Titan's trunk. The mammoth went perfectly still. "Do you remember the day you were born?" she asked softly. "I was there. I was the first person you saw. I promised I wouldn't let them hurt you, and I failed. But I can make it right. I can help you be more than just a killing machine." Outside the launch bay, Do-hyun realized what was happening. "She's going to take Titan to the mothership herself," he said. "She's going to complete the mission." "That's suicide," Colonel Tae-ho said. "She knows that," Do-hyun replied quietly. Inside the launch bay, Jiwoo was now stroking Titan's trunk gently. The mammoth had lowered its head, allowing her to touch its face. The battle fury in its eyes had dimmed, replaced by something older and calmer. "We can still do something good," Jiwoo told the mammoth. "We can save Earth. Not as a weapon following orders, but as a choice." She moved to Titan's side and pulled herself up onto the specially designed riding harness. The mammoth did not resist. "Dr. Kim, what are you doing?" Colonel Tae-ho demanded through the communication system. "What needs to be done?" Jiwoo replied, using her tablet to override the launch bay doors. They began to open slowly, revealing the stars beyond. "The mission will be completed, Colonel. But on our terms, not yours." Do-hyun rushed to the communication panel. "Jiwoo, don't do this. There has to be another way." "There isn't," she replied calmly. "The neural corruption is too far gone. Even if Titan remembers me now, it won't last. And we can't risk it falling into another killing rage." The launch bay doors were fully open now. Beyond them, the darkness of space stretched endlessly. In the distance, the void-born mothership was visible, a dark shape against the stars. "I've programmed a course directly to the heart of the mothership," Jiwoo said. "Once we're inside, I'll detonate the device." "Jiwoo, please," Do-hyun begged. "It's okay," she said, and they could hear the sad smile in her voice. "This is right. Titan deserves better than to be a weapon forever. And so many have died already." She leaned forward, patting the mammoth's neck. "Ready for one last run, my friend?" Titan responded with a deep rumble that vibrated through its entire body. It was not the battle cry they had all come to know. It was something older, something from the ancient days when mammoths roamed the earth in freedom. "Goodbye," Jiwoo said simply. Then she tapped Titan's side twice with her foot, the signal to move forward. The mammoth launched itself into space, its modified body able to propel them toward the mothership. The special armor that had been designed for space battles glinted in the starlight as Titan and Jiwoo grew smaller and smaller against the vastness of space. In the command center, everyone watched in stunned silence. Even Colonel Tae-ho had no words. "She's singing to it," Minji said suddenly, pointing to the audio feed that was still transmitting from Jiwoo's communication device. "Listen." Through the static, they could hear Jiwoo's voice, singing the lullaby. The same song she had sung to Titan on the day it was born, the same song she had used to calm it after battles, the song that had always reached past the programming and the corruption to the heart of the creature beneath. 40 minutes later, the void-born mothership exploded in a blinding flash of light. The force of the explosion destroyed the alien vessel completely. Earth was saved. In the weeks that followed, as humanity celebrated its victory, the story of Dr. Ji-Woo Kim and her Mammoth spread across the solar system. Children no longer played with toy weapons. Instead, they sang the lullaby that had been recovered from the communication records. The military created more biological weapons, but none were ever as effective as Titan had been, and none were ever treated as merely weapons again. Each new creation was given a name, not a project number. Each was spoken to with respect and kindness. On the anniversary of the victory, a memorial was unveiled at Europa Station. It showed a woman standing beside a mammoth, her hand resting gently on its trunk. At the base were inscribed words that Do-hyun had found in Ji-Woo's research notes. It remembered my voice long after it forgot how to stop killing. In that memory was its freedom, and mine. Every hour, on the hour, the memorial played Ji-Woo's lullaby. And visitors swore that sometimes if you listened very carefully you could hear a deep rumbling response, like the contented sound of a mammoth that had finally found peace.